And there you have it. The Premier League season is over. Newcastle United finish in 4th place and will play Champions League football next season for the first time in 20 years. It hasn't been a bad season, has it? And it's just the start as we now jump into the summer window in preparation for that Champions League season next season. It's understood or reported that Eddie Howe has as much as 150 to 200 million pounds to spend this summer window, and there's already links to a number of players with Newcastle United. The two main ones right now are James Maddison and Szoboszlai, the Red Bull Leipzig player. So we'll talk about both of them and the £150 million budget in this video, along with the fact that Joe Linton and Bruno both got Brazil call-ups. Trippier and Wilson are both heading to away with England. There's been a show and tell. That's right, Shola Ramiobi has done a show and tell of the Newcastle training ground, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Yes, guys, welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. This is a series I've been doing for a fair few years now. We talk about Newcastle United, all the latest headlines from throughout the week in this video. So if you're not subscribed, be sure to do so. We are slowly creeping up on 50,000 subscribers, which is mad. I'd love to try and hit that before the start of next season, which is quite a big ask. But if you do watch these videos weekly or even daily, then be sure to go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. Let's talk a little bit about the training ground. So Shola Ramiobi has turned back the clock and done a MTV Cribs style walk around the Newcastle United training ground. He has shown us what it looks like, what the changes are, and you've got to say, it looks a sight better than it used to. Great to have Shola involved as well to give the tour, and it's an interesting one because the training ground has been a great topic of conversation for me on this channel, as it has for a lot of Newcastle fans, because it's not just what's going on the pitch. I think a lot of people are quite excited about what's going on off the pitch as well. What's happening with the training ground, what's happening with the stadium expansions, and even just giving the stadium a lick of paint, to be honest. Getting those wheelie bins out of the training ground, you know, even just some of the silly stuff is great to talk about, and it's such a high for Newcastle right now. So it's great that they've kind of given us a bit of a show and tell what the training ground looks like, but at the same time, is it a little bit of an advertisement to some players who could join us this summer window? You've got to think that, you know, for years, the images of the bins out the back, and even not that long ago, when Trippier walked in through the door, and they've tried to make quick changes to that training ground. You've got to think, for us, we don't see it. Yeah, you might go and try and get a few signatures off the players. You might go and try to wave at them as they're coming out the training ground, but you're not in there. And you think these players are, as much as they go to St James's Park every 2 weeks, or very soon twice a week when we're in the Champions League, but they are in that training ground 5-6 days a week. And when you're having to take your bath in a bin out the back, it's not particularly inviting for what we hope to be some Champions League quality players joining us this summer. So is it a little bit of a, actually, for those who are thinking of maybe joining Newcastle, it's not that bad. We have upgraded it. The hope is next that, and I think Shola even said it himself, that there will be more to come. That is not the end of what we're doing there. Eddie Howe himself has said that they are still trying to expand it a little bit. It still feels a little bit on the small side. And if you're hoping to bring more bodies in, you need as much room as possible. What we really want is that state-of-the-art training ground, which I think will come very soon. I think this summer is going to be a big summer. Not just for transfers. I think off-the-field stuff will be booming as well, because we've gone out there, we've managed to get top 4, we've got the Champions League spots. This 5-year, 10-year plan has just shot forward 2 or 3 years, because they now need to improve the infrastructure. They need to improve and keep up with, or will try to, I'm no doubt, keep up with what's happened on the field. I think we've taken some big jumps on the field ahead of schedule. They're now trying to get the off-the-field stuff to catch up as well. Great news for Joe Linton, who got his first call-up to the Brazil squad. That's the thing, there might not be any Newcastle games on right now, but there is some international football coming up in June, which, for me, is slightly strange timing. Let's give these players a break after having a whole season, not send them straight off with their international teams when there isn't actually a tournament on. Don't get me wrong, I love football. England will be on, I'll watch it. I will watch Brazil to see how Joey and Bruno are getting on, and any Newcastle player, if it's on the telly, I'll probably stick it on. But outside of the competitions, international football isn't always the most successful. They're trying to make it not friendlies, but it just kind of is. Even the qualifiers for England, and look, touch wood, because, under our good mate McLaren, we couldn't even make it to the tournament. But generally speaking, England are always going to be kind of in there, and it means it's not always the most entertaining to watch. But it's football, it's on, the sun will be shining, maybe I'll find a beer garden to watch it in. But the point is, well done to Joe Linton on getting his call up. He deserves it. He's been amazing, so does Bruno. I think we can all say that there's a lot of players who stepped up this season, and they've done a great job. So, big up to them. They will, however, you'd imagine, have a little bit more competition going into next season. Eddie Howe has spoken, and I have spoken about it as well, that the squad was a little bit thin on the ground at times, certainly. I mean, the last game against Chelsea, we had to play Gordon in midfield because we had no centre midfielders left. You could look at the fact that we let Shelvey go. You could look at the fact that I think we got away with it a little bit at the end of the season. Other than the couple of injuries that we did have, players were kind of in and out. I think for the end of the season, we got away with it a little bit. So now we turn to the summer window and what Newcastle can do to bring in players. Now, there's a whole host of reports on how much Newcastle will be able to spend this window. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it 1,000,001 times. We've got the money. That's the thing. We've got the richest owners in the world. We have the money, but it's all FFP and how much we're able to spend now. And if we overspend now, will we be able to spend next season? And I do think it's a big season for us, because although you look at, do you want to overspend now? This is our Champions League season, and it's a season where we are going to effectively need two squads to compete in Premier League, Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. Outside of the first 11 players that we generally played, I think we actually only started 16 players this season. So that is 9 players who, yes, may have come on as sub, but didn't start a game. That is a lot of players that weren't as heavily involved as really your squad needs to be when we are now going to be playing 2 times a week. Not 3 times a week. Possibly. There's going to be a lot of games going on. So you look at what players could maybe walk out the door. Eddie Howe has tried to play it down a bit. The £150 budget has been mentioned, but in the eyes of Eddie Howe, he said that he wants to keep approximately 95% of the current squad. I think there's been hints to players like Lewis, Fraser leaving, but it's still understood that he wants to keep the likes of Richie and a few others. So is that Eddie Howe playing it down? I think probably. As I do actually think we have a number of positions we could use some help in. Now, centre midfield is the position that everybody's talking about. As I mentioned, we let Shelvey go. I think Longstaff has been incredible. But we play with three midfielders. So Joe Linton, Bruno, Longstaff, Willock. So the 4 of them have been quite nicely interchanged throughout the whole of this season. Anderson has come in at times when he's been needed, but you've got to say that we could still use a little bit more strength there. And the 2 players we are being heavily linked with are Szoboszlai and Maddison. Szoboszlai, in fact, said in a recent interview that he wants to join one of the teams that are competing in Europe, which we can now offer, which is very, very nice. And then you've got Maddison, on the other hand, who just got relegated with Leicester and has been a person we've been linked with for a little while. Now, we saw this with Botman originally being linked, couldn't get it over the line, then we went back in for him and got him. We saw us linked with Gordon, it didn't happen, we then went back in and then we got him. Is this the Maddison story now? Maddison story now, where we couldn't get him this time round? he's gonna leave Leicester. If there's any Leicester fans watching and you think he'll keep him, you let me know down below. I can't really see him going. I think for Leicester themselves as well, I think they need a bit of a clear out and a bit of a restart, and I've no doubt Maddison's probably on one of the highest wages they've got there. Can they afford to pay him? Do they want to pay him right now? We'll wait and see, but I think it's an opportunity for Newcastle. I think of the clubs that we would be interested in, we've been tapping them up for a while now, and we are going to offer him Champions League football, which is just massive. This window, it's huge. Szoboszlai saying he wants to play for a club in Europe. Maddison needs to make his move now and go to a side that is playing European football if he wants it. People are kind of weighing it up between which ones are going to be one or the other. The Maddison one is interesting because, and we talk about the budget, the 150 million. Some people are talking 200 million, but Eddie Howe has said that he doesn't want to have a huge overhaul. So instead, you're kind of looking at, right, 150 million, so is that £3 50 million players? If we push to 200 million, could we get 260 million and a 70 million? I think that we will spend the money if it's right. But you know for a fact that Leicester are going to ask for loads day one, and it'll take time to try and get the right price. Although one positive is his contract is kind of running down a little bit on Szoboszlai. It's understood he actually has a release clause of 70 million. So if you could pick between the two, let me know down below. Are we going to get one? Are we going to get both? Or are we going to get neither? I couldn't possibly tell you, but they're both players in positions on the pitch that we need. Maddison we've been linked with for ages. And I think if he had the choice to pick a team to go to right now, we have just taken a huge step in the right direction, because not only have we been linked with them for ages, the interest from Eddie Howe is there, the interest from the owners is there, and we're offering Champions League football. So I don't think we're a bad option for him. Szoboszlai is slightly different because there is a number of people looking at him. We've got scouts out there, but so do Barcelona and Real Madrid and a few other teams. And as good as we are, they are going to have a bit of a different type of pull. So in the case of them two, we'll have to wait and happen. And what also happens when we're getting to the summer window is that not only are we looking to buy players, people are looking to buy our players as well. Bruno is being linked away this summer window. I just can't see it happening. It's just not happening. We don't have to sell him. We don't want to sell him. We don't need the money. It'll be interesting to see what players do go this summer. And I think that, yes, we could see one or two, like Lewis and Fraser, probably go. And you know, at the end of the day, other than Fraser spitting his dummy out and going to play with the under-21s, I think generally speaking most of the players that we've had in the squad this season have given it the best when they've been on the pitch. So I won't necessarily have any hard feelings against anybody leaving. You look at Dubravka, you look at Karius coming in from the Cup. It's expected that probably at least one of them will go. You think Darlow will probably make his way out as well. I still think there's the potential of maybe a more big-name player at the club to leave this window. We'll have to wait and see. But in the terms of Bruno, no. It's not happening. He's being linked to Barcelona. Barcelona haven't got any money. They're in loads of debt. I don't know how, although they always somehow find the way to pay it. But, yeah. It'll be what Eddie Howe thinks. It'll be what Eddie Howe sees as surplus to requirements. And when I talk about budget, 150 million, 200 million, plus any players we sell. Now, yeah, I wasn't going to mention names, but I think some of the ones that people are talking about are the likes of Maxi, maybe even Almiron. Maxi's younger. At this moment in time, I don't really see it for either, because they're both good players, and there's other players in the squad I would move. And if we're only bringing in 2 or 3, what if we sold Maxi, we could buy 4? Or are we going to sell Maxi and then still only buy 3? Because the point is we buy 2, 3, 4, 5 players who can immediately compete for first team football. And then if Maxi and Alma are on the bench, that's totally fine, because they're both very good players to bring on from the bench. You look at the Chelsea game, we haven't got anyone to bring on. Although Lewis Miley came on, and maybe that is actually a little insight to the future as well, which was also quite nice, because as much as we want to go in the summer and spend loads of money, it's also quite nice to look down the line and go, hang on, we actually do have academy here. Dan Ashworth's working behind the scenes on academy and bringing younger players in. Oh, hang on, he's come on, he hit the crossbar, he could have scored and won us the game on his debut for final game of the season. It wasn't to be, but the hope is that maybe we'll see more of him in the future as well. So yes, let me know your thoughts down below on the Brazil call-up for Joe Linton, the show and tell from Shola Ramiobi of the training ground. How long do you think it'll be before we finally get underway with this new state-of-the-art training ground? And what do you think of this budget? 150, 200 million? Think it's right that Eddie Howe has said 1 or 2 players, or is he playing it down? Oh, I think he's playing it down, but I'm not saying 7, 8, 9 players like some people are. I'm thinking, I think 3, 4. I think 4 would be good. 5, maybe even. I think it's not hard to go Lewis out, Crafty out. Lewis out, Manquillo or Kraft. That's 2. Richie into a coaching role. Darlow, Gillespie. Straight away that's 5. And we haven't really even gone into the nitty gritty yet. So we have to make space, but it's easy to say we'll make space. He doesn't want to lose the harmony in the dressing room. He doesn't want to lose the people who are behind the scenes making a difference. Like Lascelles, he's still the club captain as far as I'm aware, and he doesn't play. So are you keeping him? Does Lascelles want to stay? Does Lascelles go, you know what, I've loved it, but actually I'd rather go and play somewhere else? I've said that. I don't think it's true, because these players have got Champions League. These players who probably would never have done it in their careers otherwise have got a chance to go and sit in the Bernabeu or in the Nou Camp or in a whole host of different stadiums. So even if it's on the bench, even if it's just in the stands watching from behind, they'd probably rather do that than go and play 40 games in the Championship. Which is why it will be hard to move players out, even if we wanted to. So yes, there's a lot to come this summer window, and I'll be there to give you guys the update. So I hope you have enjoyed the video. As always, drop a like, and as I say, subscribe if you haven't already. The news is going to be coming thick and fast for Newcastle, I've no doubt, over the next 6 or 7 weeks. It's a quick turnaround, The season dragged on, didn't it, because of the break in the World Cup. We've got a short window to get a lot of work done. Let's hope Eddie Howe and the owners and Dan Ashworth and Darren Eales can all manage it. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.